What do you think the quickest way to make $100,000 in sales with a print-on-demand store is? That's what I'm going to be discussing in today's video. And obviously, making $100,000 in sales is not an easy thing. And I don't want this video to be viewed as a get-rich-quick type of a video. Ultimately, what I want to do is share a practical approach for you to implement some of the things that I've done in my own print-on-demand businesses, as well as some of the things that I have taught privately to my coaching group. Here's a Facebook post from someone named John. He is a member of my coaching group, and he crossed 6 figures in sales in his first 90 days. And like I said, in the video today, I'm going to be breaking down some of the things that you're going to want to pay attention to in order to actually have a better chance at succeeding with your print-on-demand store. And obviously, your results will vary. If you're new here, hey Joe, it's Folks here. Make sure to check out some of my other videos where I do my best to try to break down some of the print-on-demand strategies that are working right now. Also, if you want to follow some step-by-step training, make sure to check out my course. There is a link down in the description. Inside, you'll get access to over 30 step-by-step videos. The best part is, it is completely free. Like I said, there is a link down in the description. If you're someone that is going to be starting a print-on-demand store, one of the first things you're going to have to decide on is what type of store you actually want to build. When it comes to selling print-on-demand products, you can create something like this here, which is considered a niche store. Basically, everything from the name of the store, the logo on the site, and all of the designs are designed for one niche. This is a store called Airport Tag, and they create products for people that love to travel. The opposite of that would be something like this here, is a general store, where the name, the logo is more general. It does not apply to any specific niche at all, and they are able to sell lots of different things to tons of different niches. You see things like camping and fishing and baseball and a whole bunch of other things that are kind of all over the place. This here would be called a general store. The name of this site is called wanderprints.com if you want to check them out. There's also this sort of an option here, which is a product focus store, where you're basically able to choose one product and make designs for that one product for lots of different niches. This store here is called Lakeshore Metal Decor, and you can see if we begin to look through some of their products, they're selling just metal signs, and then what they're doing is making designs for lots of different niches. As someone who's jumping into POD, obviously I'm talking to you. If you are jumping into POD and you haven't started a store yet, you need to decide what type of store do you actually want to create. Do you want to build a niche store, a general store, or a product focus store? And like I said at the beginning of the video, if you want to check out my free course, there's a link down in the description. I detail those 3 types as well as another type that I teach privately to my students. The next thing you'll have to do is obviously name the store and create a logo and all that. That's not what we're talking about here. The next thing you're going to have to do is actually figure out what it is you are going to be selling. And that really is more than just choosing a product. That means, really figuring out how many different designs you're going to put on the site, or even what are the designs going to look like, or even what print-on-demand supplier are you going to use. If you want to see some of my favorite print-on-demand suppliers, make sure to check out this video here. Also, check out some of the other videos here on my channel. I review tons of print-on-demand products, so that way you can see them up close and judge the quality for yourself. Ultimately though, what I'm getting at here is you're going to want to figure out how many products you're launching with, right? What you don't want to do is create a store where all of a sudden you are launching with dozens of products. And the reason for that is because in order to actually get to the point where you're launching, you're going to have to make a lot of designs, right? If you were launching your store for the first time and you were saying to yourself, all right, I want to do a product focused store like this, and I'm going to sell to the camping niche, the beach niche, the mountain niche, the sailing niche, fishing niche, the hunting, the boating, all this stuff, the farming, right? You're ultimately going to be creating like over a dozen designs just to get started. Sometimes maybe even multiple dozen, especially if you are doing something like this here, where you're doing a general store, right? And you're selling to 5 or 6 different niches. You can see here, they are selling to reading, fishing, camping, gardening, outdoor party, farming, traveling, boating, yoga. You're basically going to have to create lots and lots of designs. Even if you were doing a niche store like this, a bad idea would be to choose like 8 different products and then make 5 designs for each, because now you're having to make like 40 designs just to launch your site. In my opinion, a much better approach would be to just choose a couple of things, make a few designs for it, build a store around that, and launch your store. Obviously, once you launch and you begin growing a following on social media and promoting your product, you can begin to add more things. But at the beginning, I would definitely start slow. That will allow you to launch quicker and not spend so much time building out a store. I have seen so many many people in the past who have spent way too long building a store. I'm talking like 2, 3, 4 months. And then what happens is by the time they actually launch, they're so burnt out because all they've done is build their store. And then when they face the smallest amount of setback or have the smallest amount of discouragement with their results, they ultimately end up getting pretty discouraged. And some of them end up quitting. So what I will tell you is try to build your store as quick as possible. That way you can get to the fun part of actually running your POD business. The next thing you're going to have to do is obviously quite obvious, and that is actually build yourself a store. Here's an example of a very simple but effective Shopify store for a print-on-demand brand. Now, basically what we have at the top here is a simple header image. In my opinion, on your store, your header image should show products that you are selling. That way when someone lands on the site, they know exactly what it is you are all about. Another typical thing that you'll see right below that is a little bit of a branding statement, something like this here. What I would advise you to do is to try to keep this a little bit short and sweet. I don't think you need to make this a very emotional statement or anything like that. Ultimately, just type something here that will tell someone something about your store. From there, you can begin showing them products, and that's exactly what this store has done here, where they are promoting various collections and different products that they have on the site. Then they go right back into branding, right, with a couple of header images just like this. And then when you scroll to the bottom, the homepage basically ends. In my opinion, a homepage should sort of be presented like this, where it is basically a brochure, right? When you land on the homepage, there's a little bit of stuff there. There's a little bit of content talking about what the brand is about. There's some products as well. Sometimes what I see people do is they make this massive homepage that ultimately just has way too much information on it, and people tend to get overwhelmed with something like that. In my opinion, it might be best to just create something that is a little bit simple. A lot of times as well, people will create some sort of an About Us page where they'll talk about why the brand was created. They'll even include different images like this to show some of the products that they sell. Ultimately, if you need help actually building yourself a Shopify store, like I said at the beginning of the video, I do have a free course with over 30 videos inside of it showing you the process. The link is down in the description. At this point, I've seen a lot of print-on-demand stores. And again, in my opinion, the stores that end up looking the best are the stores that are simple. They have a couple of elements on their site. They have some social proof like this. Perhaps they also have branding statements like this here, and then they show some of their products. I think if you're able to create a really streamlined homepage that is not, too over the top, I think you're going to be in a good spot. Everything that we've gone through so far is probably stuff that you already know, or even stuff that you might have seen me talk about in other videos, because what I'm talking about is really the fundamentals of a print-on-demand business. Choosing your store type, choosing your supplier, and making designs, then ultimately building out the store are 3 things that you really have to do in order to make sure that you have yourself a POD business. What we're going to transition into now are some of the things that most people call the sexy stuff in the terms of the marketing, the Facebook, the Instagram, selling your products. This is the stuff that most people want to know about. What you're going to need to do is get yourself a Facebook page like this here. You can easily create a Facebook page right from your Facebook profile. Your name is never going to be linked to this. People will not see anything about you. They will see your business's page. And on here, ultimately what we're going to end up doing is having some sort of a content strategy. But one of the things that I would definitely tell you to do first is to make sure that you fill out the entire About section. So many times I see people start a Facebook page and they don't fill this out. They don't add a cover photo. They don't add a profile photo. And ultimately they have a Facebook page that looks relatively unprofessional. Next, you're going to want to create yourself an Instagram. Again, this can be easily done on Instagram.com. You can create yourself an Instagram and you can basically get yourself all set up. Again, you'd want to make sure you're filling out this bio at the top, write a couple of lines about your store, maybe put the link to your store there as well. And a lot of times people ask me, well, Joe, I understand, yes, Facebook and Instagram, those are great, but what other social media platforms should I be exploring? Is it worth it for me to create a Pinterest account or a Snapchat or a TikTok or even a YouTube for my print-on-demand store? And honestly, I started my first store in 2016 and I've basically just used Instagram and Facebook. There was a brief period where I did experiment a little bit with Pinterest, but for the most part, I find that Instagram and Facebook, because they are the most popular social media platforms out there, are going to be the ones that give me the most bang for my buck. They are also the ones that are easiest, in my opinion, to actually grow a following and promote print-on-demand products on because of the way that content is is produced and shared on those platforms. What I mean by that is if you are going to create a TikTok, for example, there's a big difference between the content that is on TikTok versus an Instagram. If you are on TikTok, there's a good chance you're going to be making a lot of TikToks. You'll be grabbing your phone, you'll be filming your products and filming yourself talking about your brand, and ultimately if you're on Instagram, you're sharing memes and you're posting other people's videos and you're showing pictures of your products, which in my opinion is going to be a lot more simple. And now obviously once you have these accounts, you have an Instagram, you have a Facebook, you've set everything up, you've filled out your bio, you've got your cover photo, you've got your About Us section filled out, and your store is open and you've launched. Now what? The reason I'm smiling is because so many times I see people say, hey, my store is launching next week. And then I always ask them, well, when you say launch, what does that mean? Are there actually anybody waiting to see your products? Is there any plans in the works from you to actually begin this process of running a store? Or when you say launch, do you just mean that that is your cutoff date for officially being open for business? I would ask you to ask yourself the same thing, because for me, launching means doing stuff like this here, actually beginning to grow your brand. And ultimately, what I always tell people to do is establish themselves on social media first. That is because there is 3 different ways that as print-on-demand store owners that we can actually promote our products. And again, if I go back to what I said at the beginning of the video, what I'm trying to do here in this video today is show you things that I've done in my own print-on-demand businesses, as well as things that I have taught to my coaching group. So when I showed you John's sales, ultimately what I'm now going to transition into is talking about how John has actually produced $100,000 in sales in his first 90 days. And it really comes down to 3 different things. The first is running some sort of a social media page, growing a following, making organic sales, promoting your products, and ultimately posting content that people in the niche will like. The second is by running ads on both Facebook and Instagram like these here. And the third is using influencer marketing. I'm sure at some point in your life you have seen someone on social media who has promoted a product to you. Maybe you follow someone who uses a specific type of soap or something like that, and they make a post talking about that soap with a link for you to go buy it. That is influencer marketing. And as POD sellers, all 3 of those things are what we want to focus on. And the reason I say at the beginning you want to establish yourself on social media and begin posting things is so that way you can begin growing out your brand. Ultimately, what I would advise you to do is to go get yourself enough content so that way you can post daily for 30 days. And that way you're not going to be scrambling every single day to go find content. Basically, what this store is doing here is they're just posting lots of different photos and images and memes and different things that people in their niche are going to like. And ultimately, if you go and find yourself 30 pieces of content, you are not going to ever be scrambling to find what to post for the day. And ultimately, if you keep repeating that process, your page will grow and you'll be able to establish yourself on social media. Now, the worst thing you could do is to build your store and immediately jump right into running ads on Facebook and Instagram. And honestly, this is what a lot of people want to do. Again, they view this as the sexy part, and it's what they want to spend all of their time doing. But honestly, as someone who has been doing this for a while, and I've also seen a lot of people jump into this, that could be one of the worst things that you could do. Ultimately, what I'm trying to say is, let's say that you build your store and then you jump right into running ads. What happens if those ads don't make sales and you end up having to turn them off? If you never did anything else to establish your brand and your store, then you really don't have a business once your ads are turned off. Even if your ads are working and then you ultimately pause them because you're going away for the weekend or something like that, then you still don't have a business. Ultimately, what I'm saying is you don't want to get yourself in a position where if you're not running ads, your business dries up. And for that reason, I would say start with organic social media. And again, if you want to learn how to get started with actually running ads for your print-on-demand store, make sure to check out the course. It's free, it's down in the description, and it's going to show you how to get started. I've also made a few videos. You can check out this one here on my YouTube channel where I kind of break down a lot of these marketing strategies in more depth. Ultimately, what I'm trying to do here is frame up each part of you actually starting yourself a print-on-demand store. First and foremost, what you're going to need to do, like I said at the beginning, is choose a store type, whether it's niche, general, or product focus, and then from there begin selecting suppliers, figure out what you're doing with designs, and ultimately try to start slow. Build yourself a relatively small product catalog so that way you can launch quickly. And now, obviously, step 3 would be to actually build yourself a store. And again, if you want to follow along with my POD for Dummies course, course. It's free. There's a link down in the description. It'll help you to actually do that. Fourthly, if that's even a word, you're gonna need to create yourself some social media pages. Now for me, I like Instagram. I like Facebook. Obviously there's more out there. If you have experience with those platforms and you want to use those, that's totally fine. Ultimately, what we're doing here is we're selling products on social media. We're trying to reach members of our niche, and if there are other platforms that you know how to use, then you could definitely explore them. And then lastly, you're gonna want to figure out your marketing mix. In my opinion, you should be starting with Instagram. You should be starting with developing a content strategy which involves you going out and finding as many pieces of content as possible, so that way you can post daily for your first 30 days. And then that way you're going to have yourself established, and ultimately you'll gain followers and you can promote your own products to them. And then, like I said, influencer marketing as well as paid ads should also be in that mix as well. Hopefully this video was helpful if you were sort of lost in terms of what you need to actually be doing. Now, you'll notice there's a few things I didn't talk about today, whether it's email marketing or text marketing or even SEO. And honestly, those three things, while they do have their benefits, I would say for you at the beginning here, the 5 things that I talked through today are going to be enough to keep you busy, and that is what you should be focusing on first. And obviously, if you have questions about something else, make sure to drop a question down in the comments below. Ultimately, what I was trying to do here with this video is to just give you an overall game plan of what you need to be focused on with your print-on-demand store at the beginning. Hopefully it was helpful. If it was, drop a like on the video, and I will see you guys in the next one.